Sometimes it's a good thing to be out of the loop for a long time. I've always been one of these people that had to take my time to get involved in certain aspects of technological society advances, and so sometimes things come out of the left field and hit me with like a wet fish in the face, and I realize, what is this madness and this BS that everybody's going on and on and on about, the suddenly filling all these things. I avoided YouTube and some of these other uh, bloggy channels and stuff for a better part of a decade because I was involved in the gaming and the the video gaming and stuff that I was in. One bad addiction, instead of multiple bad addictions at a time, was my philosophy as a rule. And so we get into these movies and TV series and all these things where everybody starts screaming, and I hear the cries of this liberal feminism thing that's expanded into something new and somewhat much more disturbing than what it ever always has been. Don't get me wrong. Get me wrong. I don't give a shit. You know what? You know, don't care. Don't care what you think of me. Because I don't care what I don't think of you at all. Well, so the fact of the matter is, I've always been a strong liberal to I'm a liberal conservative or conservative liberal, which confuses the hell out of everybody. It confused my father for many years. He always thought I was some pinko commie, and he couldn't quite put it in a picture. Look, everybody's entitled to equal rights to equal things to a certain degree, but we all have to acknowledge there are limitations to what we can do and can't do. Just say everybody's equal and that everybody can do exactly what anybody else can do is a lie and bullshit, and you're deluding yourself, and it's a dangerous delusion because it encourages people to do things that they're not capable of, and they can get hurt or worse. And I'll use this as a prime example. For a number of years, I lifted weights and worked out in a weight yard. I'm 300 pounds, 6'2", built like a bear. I've seen little scrawny guys get in there who are 190 pounds, 150 pounds wet, 5'4", with this idea that they're going to fling steel around like somebody twice their size and get hurt doing it. And they're trying to show up to their friends. They're trying to prove that they can do something, and at the point where they cripple themselves in the process. Look, it's nothing shameful about the fact that you can't lift as much as I could lift. That you're not as tall as I am. You're never going to be as tall as I am, and I don't care how much hard work you put in. You're never going to be able to outlift somebody twice your body mass if they're both equally on the same ground. I'm sorry. I'll put you put Schwarzenegger in his prime next to Jackie Chan in his prime, or Bruce Lee in his prime, and put him on a bench. Who's going to lift the most? Arguments are out there, but truth is Schwarzenegger is going to outlift the little guy because he just has the leverage and the bulk that the little guy don't got. Now on the other side, the little guy got a lot of advantages that this big fat slow guys are not going to have. No matter how strong Schwarzenegger is, he's still a giant, and Bruce Lee going to run circles around him, climb in like a tree and whop him upside his head 50 times to one swing from the Conan the Barbarian. I'm just saying. And there's nothing shameful about that. There's nothing wrong with that. To sit there and say that men and women are equal, well, it's it's a dangerous ground in the aspect of being, equal in what manner? Are we equal as human beings? Absolutely. Should women make as much money or equal money as men? Damn straight, because there are a lot of men out there who should make more money than they do. It should more important is what jobs. These jobs should make as much money as those jobs because they're comparable. It's not about who's in the job. Unfortunately, in our society, that's how things were 50 years ago, 20 years, 25 years ago, but things have changed. A lot of things have changed. Now we've got the haves and have-nots. Shouldn't the poor people of the world make a decent enough living to support themselves? And all this adage, the arguments that the conservatives put out there, especially the conservative Republicans, about the minimum wage arguments. Well, minimum wage was never intended for a life-sustaining job. No shit, really? I don't know how many of y'all remember though working those jobs when you were a kid. I got that. When I was a kid, it was $3.35 an hour. Nobody lived off of $3.35 an hour, even then. But the way society is set up, the way the economy is set up, the way the job market is in a lot of places, those are the only effing jobs available for a lot of people. And it's not about education. You know, I know a lot of educated people who are making much less money an hour than what they could because they're just not the jobs in their market. Or maybe, just maybe, their education is great on paper, but in actual practicality, not so practical. Or they're not as experienced in it as they should be or could be, in part because they were given bad advice by people who worked in counselor offices all across the country and in colleges that encouraged you to take this course or that course because they needed to fill seats, not because you had the aptitude to pursue what it was they encouraged you to pursue. Just saying, right? It is what it is. So, you want to have justice? You want to have social justice? We have social justice. There's a lot of problems in the world, a lot of problems in this country. You know, I'll start with the very fact. Let's just talk about education for a second. You know, there's been a huge movement over the last 10 years about getting subsidized health care, free health care, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, I'm of the opinion I would rather much see it as socialized education. I would like to see everybody have equal opportunity to go to college, to go to university, to get a higher education at any point in their life, to go back and improve the skills that they, or to rewrite the skills that they mistakenly went after that they're not suited for. And I would like to see that available to anybody, regardless of their creed, their color, their sex, or their financial ability. You know what? The old adage: you feed a man a fish, you feed a man you give a man a fish, you feed him. You know, you give a person a fish, you feed that person for the day. You teach that person how to fish, they feed that. That they can feed themselves the rest of their life. That holds true. I mean, it's common sense, right? That's the problem with this country. There's so many common sense things and common sense solutions that everybody, because of politics or personal agendas, want to circumvent. It is what it is. It's sad. It's always been that way. You think it's new? Read your history. Study your history. You know, I was a student of history most of my life because, you know, we don't listen to history. We don't learn from our past mistakes. We're doomed to repeat them, and that's God's truth. It happens over and over and over again in different forms. And that's the sad thing. It's just like your feminine liberalism, social justice BS now. You know, we get into those arguments about how the women are downtrodden and how, you know, we the men are somehow keeping them under our toe. You know, in certain cases that's true, but guess what? A lot of men keeping a lot of other men under their damn toe too, right? The wealthy keep a lot of poor people under their boots all the time. And they make that argument, well, you can get a better job. You can promote yourself. You can get educated. Can you? Can you really? How do you know that? Have you ever been there? Have you ever worked that way? You know, for a handful of you have worked your way up from the bottom. Why don't you show everybody else how that was? How you achieved that? How easy it was? You know, some people just have dumb luck and a knack for things, and that's great. Awesome. I've had friends like that just seem like they don't have to put any effort out to succeed. And then I've got friends in my own self that just claw and claw and claw at trying to get better, trying to better our lives, and we somehow don't manage it. You know, it just seems to always be another stumbling block. Something gets in the way. Something becomes a problem. So we sit around blaming everybody else for that problem. You know, look at this sudden recent movement of bringing the truth out. Well, suddenly all these famous people are falling like leaves in a winter forest in a high wind, because all these people are coming, all these other people are coming out and waving fingers at them, saying, "You did this to me 40 years ago." Okay, grant you, these individuals are terrible people that made some very piss poor decisions and arrogant and use their power to get things that, you know, is highly morally and ethically questionable. Do they need to be punished? Should they be punished? Okay, I'll leave that up to the mob, because that's what the mob's deciding. I'm not going to make that decision. I do tell you one thing. Where the hell do you get off waiting 40 years to come out of the window? Why didn't you bitch when it happened? Why didn't you pull a finger at them at the time? And the argument, well, it would have ruined my career, it would have this, it would have that. We're back to that same circle question now, aren't we? You know, you were politically or financially motivated not to hang your, not to risk what you wanted. So you swallowed whatever it was, you put back whatever happened, you hung your head, and you didn't let anybody know. You stood in the background and let this abuse take place instead of stepping forward and doing the right thing, no matter how much it hurt. You wanted what you wanted first, because they wanted what they wanted first. Now we're gonna go after these people. Who knows? After the much older people, now there's this Weinstein feller. He's a prime example of somebody that definitely needed taken down because he continued to do something. All right, I just continued to do stuff. But then I get into this stuff. Then I hear this guy that was on the Prairie Home Companion loses his job because he barely touched somebody's bare back in a brief moment, trying to console them during an upsetting situation. How do you weigh the two? How do they even fit in the same category? See, there's the problem. There's the problem with this social justice bullshit that's going on. They want what they want for what they want at that moment. They want satisfaction. They want gratification right now, and they've got it tightened up in their head in a very tight little package that everybody's the bad guy. That men are the bad guy. This is a very dangerous set of road to be going on. You're going to make an entire generation of young men paranoid, and you're already seeing this stuff. I see the videos on the red pill and the waking up of the male, conscious to the facts of the world. The social justice BS. These feminists always have the same problem. You want this, and you want your cake, and you want to eat the frosting, and you want it all, and you want somebody else to pay for it too because you think you're entitled. Well, I'm middle-aged white America, so I'm going to be in the wrong. I'm the bad guy. I'm the villain here in every situation because I can put that same argument when it comes to ethnic background. Look, no offense, ladies, you got a bad row back. Your grandparents and your grandmothers and your great-grandmothers had a bad time. Things have gotten better. The young ladies today are not in the great-grandma's category, and not even close. And you should understand that you've come a lot further than you. And there's still room to go. But we're human. We're all culture, and we evolve and we grow. We don't do it by doing it on the backs of everybody else, because you're doing the exact same thing, and then verbally justifying it is okay. The very same thing you accuse these guys of doing, you're doing it to them in another form, and it's okay. Instead of being front forward with it when it was a problem, and taking this person out before he did it for how many other people, so you could further your own career. So it was convenient when you needed it to be convenient. Now it's convenient for you to not need it to be convenient. Isn't that great, right? That's gonna. And like I said, I don't give a shit if you like me or not. I don't care. I don't care what you think of me. I don't give a shit. I don't ever have, and I'll speak my mind because you're entitled to it. My wife's entitled to it. She don't think I think that way, but we're all entitled to speak our opinion, even if it's wrong. But don't be afraid to, or don't be butthurt when somebody come back and says, "Hey, you're wrong," and I can show you how you're wrong. Except you don't want to see that part. We all want to ignore that. We want to be right, and we don't want anybody to acknowledge that we've made a mistake somehow. We are the last persons that like to make that mistake of admitting we're wrong. That's human nature, right? So let's touch that ethnic comparison. Okay, there's a lot of people of color who've gotten abused over the centuries and taken advantage of, and they had to go and fight tooth and nail. Their grandparents and their great grandparents fight tooth and nail to improve life and to get on equal footing. It shouldn't have had to go that route. We should have had the higher ground from the very beginning. Our country was built on a foundation that was total bullshit, and it was wrong. And now we have a shaky foundation. We'll have a shaky foundation forever because you can never go back and properly build something. And you can't tear it down and rebuild it from scratch. As much as there's a lot of people out there believe we can tear it down and rebuild, well, guess what? You can't. Not 100%. And it's always a danger to do that because you may never get the new construction can be much shoddier and cheaper than the old stuff. I'm just saying, fix the old stuff. Don't try to replace it. Don't rebuild it. Now, 30 acres and a mule litany that I grew up with. No offense, half of y'all, your ancestors weren't slaves. They came to this country after the 60s. They immigrated here like everybody else, or they were in the North and they weren't slaves. They were poor, indentured people, I'll grant you. But here's another one that most people like to sidestep and don't want to acknowledge. But you go read your history books. White people have been subjugating white people for as long as history's been around. The Romans controlled 3/4 of Europe at one time, and they were under their boots. So the Italians, the descendants of, the Italian descendants, their great ancestors, owned half the planet. The Chinese owned the other half. I'm just saying, at the known time. And they didn't care what your color or creed was. You were chattel and so on. Our own country, before America became America, when the colonies were first becoming settled, half or more than half of the people who came here were indentured servants. They either owed their passage and their existence to the New World to the people who paid their way and had to work it off, or they came in as from a servant class of an old school Europe and had to work their way to freedom even when they came to the land of freedom. But y'all don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. So I'm the bad white guy villain in the room. You know what? That's what I say to that. Because I'm telling you right now, I got no money. I got no power. I'm under the thumb of a lot of motherfucking people. And I do my best to get by every day. I look after myself, my wife, and our damn cat because nobody else is going to do it. And it seems like everybody's trying to get one over on us. Everybody. Even the ones who claim that they're helping. And in their mind, they are helping, but that's part of the game of this existence. It's hard scrabble, and we fight. And those of us who had the silver spoon handed to us, don't know how to appreciate what they got. The majority of them. There's a few exceptions. There are always exceptions to the rule. So, that's me. That's my rant. You know what? Don't like it? Make your own.